Law and Mediaite.
Law and Mediaite.
There is a legal or law point of view in what's happening in the news.
5 devices in the building that
sends its people.
Holy cow, new studio, new graphics, but the same Colby Hall and Bob Bianchi are here. Colby, how are you today?
I'm great, Bob. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Listen, I've been watching all weekend long, kind of in amazement as a trial lawyer about this Flynn situation and people saying he's been entrapped. And, hey, you know what? I wish I could use these defenses for my clients. Unfortunately, this is the way things operate. Not to mention, he was aware of why the FBI was there talking to him. What are you finding out, Colby?
Well, all I do is I track what's going on. The intersection of media, politics, and, of course, law. And, it was a rainy weekend in D.C., and that means one thing. The president was not out playing golf. He was tweeting. And he was tweeting and tweeting and tweeting. One such tweet we'll show right now. The president, of course, went with his Russian witch hunt hoax again, and he says that it was an insurance policy started by the Democrats who they are, quote, entrapping people for misstatements, lies, or unrelated things that took place many years ago. Nothing to do with collusion, a Democrat scam, says President Trump. Well, there are loyal media outlets that look for the president's Twitter feed for their cues, and there's not a better example of that than what we saw this morning on Fox and Friends when Dan Bongino was talking to the Fox and Friends Curvy Couch people, and they had this back and forth.
So the FBI, the day before they interview Flynn, for what? A Logan Act violation? That's not even serious. It's never been successfully charged in the history of the United States. It's not even unconstitutional. Leaked to the Post the day before there was nothing illicit. Why were you interviewing Mike Flynn
what is the Logan Act? The Logan Act's working with the enemy. Did Jane Fonda get that? We saw video of her with the enemy. So, I mean, you got to be kidding. You're going after for this reason. The other thing to keep in mind is we're getting more details about why the FBI felt as though that Lieutenant Colonel Michael Flynn might not have been lying. It's because he walked in, he shook their hands, he felt like one of the guys, he offered them a tour of the White House. He sat down there. They thought they were just talking around two buddies. And they used that to his advantage. They said he had learned to believe the lies he was telling. Really, what a huge leap that is. He was convincing in the lies because he believed the lies he was telling.
Yeah, Colby, I mean, this is a situation, so our audience understands this, where they knew he was lying ultimately because they had intercepts. And what this was on the day the Obama administration issued sanctions for interference with the 2016 election against Russia, is him making calls to the Russian government telling them basically don't worry about it, which is interfering with the Obama administration's ability to do its work, no?
Well, that's exactly right. And, all of that aside, all of that interference aside, there's one very important person who thinks that Michael Flynn lied, and that's Michael Flynn. He pled guilty to this. And so we're now in this weird world where, like, oh, he was entrapped. We can't believe this guy. He didn't know what he was doing. Well, something doesn't add up here. I mean, he was the NSA. Now, there's a lot going on here. The truth of the matter is that the issue that they're mentioning is not necessarily Russia-related. What the Logan Act that they're referencing, he had received money to sort of lobby on behalf of the country of Turkey, and he did not reveal that. You can't have the guy that's running the NSA be advising the president and not be revealing to the government, to his own nation, that he's getting money on the side for Turkey. So it's a tough situation, but it's fascinating media scenario.
And Colby, based on the information that they were getting, am I wrong? Do I not remember that Sally Yates went to the president to say you got a problem with Flynn? I'll go one step further. That his transition team person at the time, Chris Christie, said the same thing, if I recall.
No, that's exactly right. In fact, I wrote a piece in Mediaite where I referenced the very same Sally Yates thing, who she was deputy AG at the time, and she's been pushed aside, or she resigned. But no, absolutely. And the other context here that's crazy is that we're now in a world where, like, Sally Yates was a law enforcement official. In fact, the DOJ is all law enforcement. So this sort of negative taking down of the FBI and Department of Justice sort of means that you're not in support of law enforcement. It's a weird upside-down world, and I think it's still evolving, and there's lots more yet to see what happens.
Wow, Colby Hall, the founding editor of Mediaite. I love this. It's the intersection of law, politics, and media, and the various narratives. You do an awesome job, one of my favorite segments. Thanks so much for coming in, Colby.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Bob.
Okay.